Mate, one thing I forgot to tell you about on Sunday was Mum was at the wedding that we were at as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that actually.
And she had some pretty direct feedback for myself. I was like, what could I have possibly done wrong? She had some pretty direct feedback saying that, gee, I just wish you dressed better. You just look like a bogan. Like,
what? At the wedding?
No. On the podcast.
Oh, Georgie.
What have I done wrong?
Nothing. There's nothing wrong with what you're wearing.
I thought hoodies were fine.
There's nothing wrong with hoodies.
And last time I checked, I just wear like black and white t-shirts.
Yeah, just real basic.
So that's some pretty disappointing and direct feedback from my own mum. No feedback for yourself, which is, that's good for you.
Yeah, that is good for me. Look, I have had feedback from my mother actually regarding the podcast before, and God bless her, she doesn't really listen very often, but and it's to do with my potty mouth. Sometimes I drop a few too many F-bombs in a podcast, and Mum's logic around that is, surely you're intelligent enough to come up with a descriptive word or an adjective better than the F word. But do you know what I said? Sure thing, Mum. I'll take it on board. Yeah, so look, mate, mums are great for that. They're good for feedback, good honest feedback. At least you know where you stand.
Hey, Kath, sometimes a good fuck can get you a long way. That's what I would say.
Yeah, it gets a lot of people a long way.
Yeah. Sometimes in the wrong way.
100%.
Mate, we have a ton to actually cover in this because there's races in 4 different counties, if you could call it them.
Shit, man.
We have Morphettville, we have Doomben, we have Flemington, and of course we have Scone. So let's get cracking on. Let's just rip the Band-Aid, the South Australia Derby. Now, I was looking through this field. I was like, gee whiz, am I underwhelmed. Underwhelmed even.
Yeah, underwhelmed.
And as we touched on Sunday in our review podcast, Drifters, we have a review podcast if you didn't even know that, where we basically go over the exact same races and see if we won or see if we lost. Or
yeah, effectively what we do is we review the races of the day before.
Yeah.
That's why it's a review podcast.
Yeah. No, well said by you. I was incredibly... what was I saying? On the review podcast, we made the mistake of backing the best horse in the race, Bella Nipotina.
We did, yeah.
In an Adelaide Group 1 because, of course, something pops up at a double-figure price.
That's pretty typical. And the other thing that's pretty typical of Adelaide Group 1 racing is the king of Adelaide, Johnny Allen.
Yes.
Just scooting through and picking up every G1 that he rides in.
Boot scooting Johnny.
Boot scooting Johnny, driving me crazy, winning on roughies. It ruins my day. So who's he on in the SA Derby? Because you could argue he is the Derby King.
That is true. He is on... I keep scrolling.
He's on High Approach.
High Approach. There you go.
Dan O'Sullivan's thing. Ran in the ATC Derby, the Aussie Derby. So, yeah, so you're underwhelmed by this field, mate. And I think most punters will agree with you.
Well, yeah, of course. I wish Virtual Circle was in this race because I reckon he lapped them all. But that is not the case. You have Suzuro, who ran 3rd in the Australian Derby. As some sort of form reference, he's $7.50, but he's also drawn Glenelg.
He has,
barrier 20.
He has, which isn't ideal. So yeah, he's coming out of. He's got that Sydney form that he's bringing. You got the likes of Dunkell, who's bringing form from Tassie in the Tassie Derby. Finished behind Bankmore in the Alistair Clark Stakes. You've got form out of the Bendigo St. Ledger trial with the likes of Promises Kept, which So he put away a field massively, and all of a sudden he was with a new trainer with a new set of silks on. So bizarre that. He's been specced in the market, promises kept. Little buy-in there. You got She's Fit, who's coming out of the Oaks. She ran really nicely there. She's your favourite. $4.80 the field with Neds. Like, what are your thoughts, mate? Do you have any strong, firm opinions?
I have zero opinion. But for I guess, the art of providing the drifters out there some sort of tip which they could put a line through, I'm hunting for value here in what is an incredibly stinky race. So there's 2 horses that I want to play around. The first one is number 5, Red Sun Sensation, which is just an absolute nightmare to pronounce. So won the Chairman's, got going late. There is a horse out of that race, actually, who I'm keen to back over further. It might even come to Brisbane for the Queensland Oaks or something. That's Whispering Lady. She was the first home of the fillies against the boys and the Chairman, so I think she got going really late, so I want her over further, but alas, she's not here. But Red Sun Sensation did quite well to hold off the other boys there. I think the likes of Loco, who has form around Gringotts, you can kind of like get the reference of the type of horse that he is. Moody, Nolan in the saddle, proven combination.
100%, and typically speaking, the Chairman Stakes actually is a good form reference for the SA Derby as opposed to other horses coming from other derbies in different states. But geez, the form line's intersecting here. It's like a fucking Rubik's Cube, Daniel. And I'm finding it really hard to have it on Tom's selection. Yeah. And I was sort of looking at this race before the barriers were announced, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get ahead of the curve here. As much as I hate SA racing, I'm going to get ahead of the curve so I can just be on the front foot when it comes to podcast recording day. And I was like, you know what? I remember Sweet Zero's run in the Australian Derby. Was back in midfield most of the time. Finally gets a run. Came home really strong. And then he's been freshened into the Chairman Stakes. He ran a nice third there. I think that was just a sort of bounce out run. You've been off for a month. Get you back in here. Get you used to this track. This is your grand final. And I was like, you know what? I think he's going to be my pony. And guess what? He drew barrier 20. In a field of 20. Could you believe it, Drifters?
I could.
Could you believe it? Look, I backed to Ferris Sweevra in the Oaks, and she drew the widest gate. So, you know what? I'm just going to do it again. Sweet Zero is going to be my top selection. I actually like the fact that he's had the go around Morphettville after running in the Aussie Derby. I thought he was great there. He charged home like he wanted further. A bit of a freshen up. Tell you what, mate. There's only one Opie Bosson. Why is he flying over?
Why is he here?
Why is he here? Why is he flying over?
Sorry. Why is he there? He's not here.
He's there.
If you had any sense, he'd be in Brisbane.
Exactly, true. He's flying over from across the Dutch to get on the back of Sweet Zero at the request of Trent Buston and Natalie Young. So they must be keen on this thing in this. He's rock hard fit, Sweet Zero. He's my toppy. I was keen on She's Fit as well. I thought her run in the Oaks was great. She came home like a freight train. She was wide the trip, albeit with cover. She appears to have well and truly the ability to get out over this distance. She's raced against the boys before in the WA Derby. My theory for not putting her on top is, and why I think she's a bit too short in the market, is if Awesome John and another Chino who beat her home in the WA Derby, if they were in this race, would they be the 2 favourites above her? And it's like, well, if they're not, then why is she the favourite here? That's my logic somehow. I don't know. Just, read into that what you will. But I am keen on her. And the other roughie I am keen on is, there's a few, but Dunkel. Like, I think you can forgive his last start in the Alistair Clark States behind Bankmore. He pulled up lame, and that was a on-pace type of day, and he was at the back. So, they're the 3 for me.
Well summarised by you. There is one that I really do hope wins, and he could potentially be my on-top selection. It's between 2, and that is number 6, Bengal Boy for Matthew Cumani. Never won a Group 1, and if he's ever going to do it, it's going to be here.
With a stayer, you'd think so, yeah.
Stayer, he's a great trainer of stayers. He had hit the shot back in the day in the Victoria Derby, who ran a flashing second or third behind Johnny Get Angry. And that horse got sold to Hong Kong. So I think a win for the stable like Matthew Kimani here would be absolutely massive. So I'm cheering home this horse to actually win. He's 30-1, have something tiny on each way. Reason being, first time he got out to the 2400, he really fought. He fought off Midnight Glow during the straight, but he just looks an out and out stayer. This horse can sit on pace. He's drawn barrier 7, which is absolutely perfect.
Our friend Declan Bates on board.
Yeah, cousin Declan on board. I think he's worth a shot. So my strategy is going to have 20 on him to win, 60 to place, 1 by 3. And then I'm just having $20 on Red Sun Sensation as well.
Lovely. 45 on Swee Zero. Actually, sorry, 50 on Swee Zero. I'm going to have 40 on She's Fit. And that leaves me with $10, which I'm going to just throw at Dunkel. I'm just going to say one thing. I hope that the consortium that bought Promises kept. I hope they paid good money for him, because Greg Euro was training him. He was running out in Bendigo. He showed some ability, and then before you know it, he's in a different set of silks, a different stable. Like, if he wins, I hope Greg Euro's watching and he's like, you know what, that's fine, because they paid me some decent cash for this thing. That's all I'll say.
Well said by you. Now, here we go. Doomben 10,000. This is one of the races of the year, I would say. Is that a bit dramatic? Probably. But
no, Queensland Racing.
This is fantastic. Now, this is where our affection for Marzu overflowed last year.
Oh, yeah, it was a climax.
It was an extreme climax. It was sensational stuff. Everyone was off, and we were on him, and we were right. And
we were better.
We were better. Unbelievably, Marzu hasn't won another race since then. He's ran bloody well, though, and he's collected a lot of prize money for his connections. So what else can he do? Now, he was last year's winner. I believe Eduardo might have been the winner before that.
You could be right, yeah.
I think so. So they're both very speedy horses. Eduardo, obviously, the speedier. Overpass, and then you have the likes of Prince of Boom and Winona, smart one going up there. Mate, Giga Kick has drawn perfectly in barrier 4. I reckon he's going to camp right in behind him there with Marzu, and probably the likes of maybe, I don't know. I think the rest of them go back. Maybe Maria Mears up there with those two, and then the rest of them, I reckon go back.
100%, yeah. I think just camping off pace will be your Giga Kicks and your Af Cabins. Af Cabins sort of been a little bit sluggish out of the gate, so he might even be close to last.
I think that him and Valana will be last and second last. I reckon.
Yeah, right. Okay. Which will be interesting to see. Oh, mate, for me, the race just maps perfectly for Giga Kick, the Everest winner. You said that you made a great point today. You didn't want to see him probably draw any further inside.
Yeah.
Which is so true, because you wouldn't want to get him to be trapped on the rails and struggling to get out. Whereas 4, you feel like there's going to be ample opportunity for him to start working into the race and loom up around the tight bends of Doomben. I think Doomben, the actual track itself, is probably the only concern, I'd say, for Giga Kick, because he does like to wind up in his races. But, oh, mate, he's going to be mightily hard to beat in this. I just think his best is probably a length and a half, maybe even 2 lengths better than the rest of the field, which is saying something. So I think he'd have to be off. And I think the others would have to have a really good day to beat him. So the price reflects that. But, yeah, I think it's his to lose.
I agree. I think he's the clear on-top selection. I'm not overthinking it. $100 on the nose on Giga Kick. The horse I really do want to see flashing home, because I think he might be my Stradbroke horse, is Valana.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. I think of the 2-3-year-olds of any promise, Giga Kick has to be your pony over Af Cabin. Af Cabin has proven that he's not 100% bulletproof.
Agreed, yeah. Af Cabin, again, would be a horse I wouldn't mind seeing with a flashing light. But no, he's not Giga Kick. If he runs really well here, he could very well be Godolphin's Everest horse. But yeah, I'd be very surprised if Giga Kick loses this.
All right. Lovely stuff. I'm assuming $100 on Giga Kick.
Yes, $100 on the Schnozzer.
Lovely. All right, let's get Morphettville, Melbourne, Sydney out of the way, finish on a high with the rest of the card in Brisbane. So let's kick it off at Morphettville. Race 2, the size produce, a Group 3, race 2 on the day, in amongst some benchmark 58s, which is really good to see. Number 4, Nodashi, won its last start by 5 lengths, nearly 6. That's all she wrote for me.
Yeah, I agree. That form around Legacies looks good. Legacies came out and won around Anzac Day. So, yeah, Nadachi's the one for me. $2.30 with Neds.
Yes. Race 8 on the program is the Adelaide Guineas, 1,600 metres listed race. Now, we were at the Brecky Creek Hotel, one of the great venues of all time. And about 2 minutes before the race, our good friend Bradley Weston was like, I reckon Lethal Thoughts wins the Mornington Guineas. Puts it on at $6.50, I might add. And this horse absolutely blew them away. Really impressive win. Just really stormed home the last short, sharp turn home. South Aussie Johnny in the saddle. Johnny Allen for Dave Eustace, Kieran Maher. I think he wins.
Looks like we're favourite bashing so far. Yeah, agreed. Dashing came out and won last weekend. And so that form reads really well out of the Mornington Guineas. Yeah, Lethal Thoughts for me too.
Yep. But of course, Drifters, you have to wait to see what the Mafia is doing. I think he got 3 or 4 winners last week as well. He found Royal Mert.
Like I said, if he misses, he's still gone through to the keeper, and the keeper's catching it cleanly.
Yeah. He's Glenn McGrath, just on a length. Relentless. All day.
Relentless.
Let's go to Flemington. There's only a couple of races that we're going to cover at Flemington, and the first one is race 6, the straight 6. Listed race. Now, there's 2 horses that I think are the main winning chances. I'll leave one to you because I believe he is going to be your on-top selection.
He's a good friend of mine.
Number 2, she's all class. I think down the straight, I love seeing these mares that, do get back a bit. They can sit a bit closer in the run down the straight 6 at Flemington. I reckon she's won this prep, but she's incredibly hard to find. The issue with her is she's dual accepted in Scone as well. So not 100% locked in if she's actually running here. But if she is, I'm keen on her.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. My guy, the Jumbuck, has been a good friend of mine. He's been almost like the Marzoo of this year for me, the Jumbuck. Just keeps winning for fun. Love how they're just giving him a nice few weeks between each of his runs, keep him sort of fresh. Yeah, down the straight, Flemington. It'd be awfully hard to beat. $3 for Ned's D Jumbuck.
Yeah. Now, I think he's a wish version of Marzoo. I think that's fair. Yeah, because Marzoo's a genuine Group 1 horse. I think the Jumbuck's been in a listed race once.
Yeah, mate, I'd love to own a horse that's winning listed races for
yes,
fun.
Yes, mate. We're going to have one after this weekend.
Chew.
All right. The Andrew Ramsden. Now, I was looking through this field and I see he's a shocker at $4.50. This is early in the week, Drifters. We do this so early that it's almost silly. And then I see White Marlin at $2.50. And if White Marlin is $2.50 by the time this race jumps, I will fall over in shock.
Uh-huh.
I cannot believe how close those two are in the market. I would rather, over this distance, what's likely going to be a good track, have a bet on Vow and Declare over He's a Shocker. I would have thought.
I'd rather have a bet on my guy Herman Hesse. He's $19 with Needs.
But surely White Marlin's nearly the best bet of the day.
Yeah, he'll win this. Yours truly, a.k.a. Genius, was against him last start. I backed D'Aguilar. I'm just butchering that.
Sound like me.
He jumped $1.35 white marlin with 60 kegs on his back over 2,000 meters after coming back from 2,100 against things with like 53 kilos. Like, I couldn't understand the price. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to hunt for some value, and I found the right one. But no, back to weight for age. This is by the looks of it. Yeah,
Set weights.
Weights.
He's getting. He's on level weights.
He's on level weights and 2,800 meters. Like he rolls forward. Like he's going to be winning this. But if you want to hunt for some value, man, Herman Hesse each way. He's proven. He's just trolling on the jumps. So yeah, white marlin for me. There is one thing I want to point out real quick in race 1 at Flemington, and it's something that I pointed out to you today. If my computer decides to load. Here we go. So, race 1, 2-year-old fillies. A lot of these things on debut, including number 11, Isthmus. ISTHMUS. How would you pronounce that, drifters? If you have a list, I'm sure you're good at it. But anyway, Isthmus. Out of my girl Shoals. I'm invincible cross Shoals. Apparently she's just like mum. She's $4.20 with Neds in the first. Get on for my sake. Isthmus. First in Flemington.
Well found by you. All right, Scone. Now this is a bloody difficult program, I might say. So there's a few races to go through here, and a couple of them I'm not providing any sort of insight because they're that bloody difficult. The Hortensia Stakes is 1,100 metres listed race. Now, Malkovich, your guy, is back here against the likes of 1111, who I unbelievably, in reflection, backed in a Stradbroke last year. And he came,
upon reflection, that is bizarre.
Yeah, and he came last. He had an issue, but yeah, strange stuff by myself. So we have 1111, who could easily win a race like this. Malkovich, Quantico, etc. You backing Malkovich again?
Yeah, I think so. Since his gelding operation, I think that race that I'm not a massive ratings guy, but that race that he won last start, apparently it was a new peak. And a new peak resuming off a gelding tells me that he's got new peaks to come. But again, I'm not a ratings guy. But I'll dive in at the $4.40 with Neds.
Yeah, I'd say he's the one I'm kind of leaning towards. The other one's Quantico, who won first up earlier this year as well. That was a pretty poorly rated race if you are a rating guy or girl. So I reckon he might potentially find Malkovich a little bit too slick here. But I reckon he will be running into the money. But, you know, they're basically $4.50 each. So probably siding with Malkovich there. So the rest of the program is race 7, the Denise's Joy Stakes over the 1,200 metres, I believe. 1,100 metres for the fillies. I found this absolutely impossible. If you were to say, hold me at gunpoint and you're like, have a bet in this race, I'll just chuck all the Godolphin things in for a Quinella. That's what I'd do.
You'd probably get it, mate. Yeah. Oh, hi. She's a tough one to find. Yeah. I've found her.
The one time in her career.
The one time she's won, which is on debut, which is bizarre. Like, she's due. So, yeah, I'll have a throw at the stumps for $7.50. I don't care. I've got nothing to prove to anyone.
You don't. You have runs on the board, mate. Race 8 is the Luskin Star Stakes, 1,300 metres listed. This is where She's All Class is dual accepted. But there is a big inclusion here. And today, I don't think I've ever backed her before, but today I'm keen. Number 9, Opal Ridge. I think she can bounce back for us.
Yeah, I think so. A bit of a freshen up. She was in the noms for the Doomben 10,000, so wouldn't have backed her there. But yeah, I'll back her here. I reckon she'll bounce back. $5 with Neds.
Probably just got found out on those heavy tracks. She won't find that this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I think 1,300 metres right up her alley.
Yeah. I think she's a absolutely sensational bet this weekend. $5. Yum, yum.
Nutritious, delicious, all that.
Scrumptious.
Yep.
Dark Jewel Classic is race 9, 1400 metres group 3 for the fillies and mares. Now, surely not. Don't you dare. Think about it again.
She never draws a barrier, does she? So she's drawn barrier 16, Written Beauty. Last start in Hawkesbury, what did she draw? Oh, she drew 5. She drew 3 before that, and she drew 8. So actually, I don't know what I'm talking about. I can't have a bet in this race because she's in it. I just can't. I didn't mind Short Short's last start in Gosford. He's on the quick backup, and he ran second there. So $6.50 with Neds, I probably would be leaning towards Short Shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an opinion?
I struggled. If she gets a run, number 18 is an emergency for Johnny Sargent Mayrose. Now, she's coming out of midway grade, but she had one of the great wins on, I think it was day 1 of the championships. She absolutely flew home. Actually, it might not have been during the championships, but it was about 6 weeks ago, about a month ago. She's a mare with a bit of talent, if everything goes her way. But yeah, nah. I have absolutely zero firm opinions in the race. Now we get to Doomben. Here we go, mate. Some good stuff happening here. Race 4 is the members' handicap, 1,600 metres listed race. I was looking through this race and I was like, there's a few Chris Waller horses in this race, and there's a bit of the old guard coming back together. It's almost like the pensioners for horses. It's almost like the nursing home of races. This. I found it incredibly difficult, and I actually landed on number 3, Big Boy Roy.
Big Boy.
We saw the best of him about 12 months ago during the Brisbane Carnival, where you found him again, unbelievably. A lot of people were like, Big Boy's a bet today. I'm like, you're kidding me. I couldn't believe it. Probably going to be one run short. I think he does his best stuff second and third up. But J-Mac in the saddle for Chris Waller. You look at his stats over the mile, like he's running in the top 3 75% of the time. So, and I think this is about his grade. If not, he can go to a little bit higher than this, but maybe Group 3 level. But Big Boy for me.
Yeah, I don't mind character, Godolphin thing, number 7, Benny Thompson on. He's a bit of an enigma character. He's $14 with Neds. He's drawn gate 1. I've watched him a couple of times this prep. So he was in the Hawkesbury Cup, and he just sort of, and that was off a freshen up, and he just sort of got going, and then got held up and sort of got going. He drew gate 12 there. He's drawn gate 1 here. So I think he'll roll forward. Benny Thompson's in fine form, so I'll have a little throw at this time as a character.
Him and Alcyone, the stablemate, are incredibly similar horses.
Yeah, they are.
Like their profiles. I think they ran against each other in the Vic Derby. I think Character's the one that absolutely gave one to Alcyone in the ribs, about 400 metres into the race, but they just kind of go against each other so often, and they kind of just finish beside each other. So if you like Character, I have something on Alcyone as well. Race 5 is the Champagne Classic for the 2-year-olds, 1,200 metres Group 2. Now, Appen Girl did absolutely nothing wrong last start.
Nothing wrong.
She kicked dirt in her colleagues' faces, albeit in a field of 8. I think there's only, 11 here. Mate, barrier 1, I reckon she'll find the front, be awfully hard to run down. She's a clear on-top selection for me.
Yeah, same here. She's an early drifter in the markets, which doesn't make any sense to me. But maybe they're looking at, the form of the likes of Empire of Japan coming out of Sydney. But no, Appen Girl's done nothing wrong, so she's the one for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
100%.
Now.
Just let it happen.
Race 6 is the Chairman's Handicap, 2,000 metres Group 3. Now, I thought this was an incredibly difficult race. No firm opinion for me, but I thought number 13, Secret Glamour. How many times do we see Kiramar David Eustace bring something over these middle distances interstate with that SF Sydney form. Craig Williams in the saddle. Down in the weights, a bit of weight relief. Yeah, I could see her winning from barrier 7.
Yeah. I don't think I want to jump off Cepheus yet. $5 with Neds, he's a bit shorter than what I'd hope, but Hot Nash on board out of gate 6. Yeah, I think he'll give it every chance, so I'm going to stick with Cepheus.
Not sure about that race in general. Number 2, Yonkers, is $7.50, who finished last in that race, but he was only a length and a half behind Cepheus. So a blanket finish, to say the least.
Which usually isn't a good sign. But,
hey,
we'll see.
We'll see. All right, race 7, and I believe the last race that we're touching on. Oh, no, we have one in race 9 as well. Apologies. Now, the Rough Habit
Brisbane Racing
Plate.
doing it again.
Yeah, of course they are. Of course they are. 2,000 metres, Rough Habit Plate, Group 3 for the 3-year-olds. Talk to it.
Yeah, Kovalika is the one for me. Like, no genius to find it. Obviously, he's $1.85 with Neds, but like 3 wide the trip, nothing to bring him into the race, and still ran over the top of him just on ability, I think, in the Queensland Guineas. And that was over 1,600 metres, which is not in his wheelhouse, I think. He's a 2,000 metre horse. He finds that here. J-Mac on, after I think Hot Nash was on him last start. Yeah, which I wouldn't say is an upgrade or a downgrade. We rate Hot Nash here.
Of course we do.
We rate Hot Nash. Gets a lot out of his horses, but yeah, Kovalika is the one for me. If you want to find some juice, why don't you just do a little, open up your Neds app, click Kovalika, and then click Giga Kick in the very next race, and you got a 2-leg multi paying probably like 350, 360. Like that's juicy for me. So yeah, Kovalika. What are your thoughts?
Well done by you. I want to see how the only filly in the race runs so dazzling. Now, we've talked about this filly ad nauseum on this podcast from time to time. But I think what she proved is when she gets out to those staying distances, she is a filly of talent. So 2,000 metres, I'd say, is probably below her best, but it's going to be a prep-up run for what her next grand final will be, which will be the Queensland Oaks.
Yeah, she'll bounce out of this, heading to the Oaks. So, yeah, definitely one to watch for the Oaks.
Absolutely. So the last race of the day is the Bright Shadow Quality for the fillies and mares. Listed race 1,110 metres, one of my favourite distances. Now, I thought this was almost one of the bets of the weekend. Number 3, a Very Fine Red. Mate, resumed against the boys, against the likes of Kalos and the Bopper. The Kalos just doesn't know how to lose at the moment.
Can't lose.
Then she goes out against the likes of Malkovich and Andermatt, and she was awfully unlucky. Was absolutely butchered.
Yeah.
By
Malkovich
Tyler.
form. It's good form.
By Tyler. She returns to the mares and the fillies here, which is the main thing. She's going to be awfully hard to beat at $7.50.
Do you know what that smells like? Smells like a bet for you. It smells like a nice Cab Sav Shiraz type operation, you know. Going against you though. Purely because Hellfest, as you might recall, I was really keen on last start. But she was scratched, and I can't exactly recall where or what that race was. But she was scratched, so I'm keen on Hellfest. I've got a high opinion of this girl. $7 with Neds. I'm hoping for a pretty big weekend for Godolphin.
Mate, let's see. I think we'll actually be there, Drifters. Most likely on Saturday.
Yes, we will most likely be there. Yeah.
So if you see us, come say good day. But it's going to be a bloody good day of racing, I reckon.
100%. I'm really keen. There's a few I'm keen on this weekend. Last weekend was one of those ones where I was like, I'm not too sure. And you know, when I'm feeling like that, I just get a feeling in my waters. I probably shouldn't have a bet, but it actually wasn't too bad last weekend. So hopefully this weekend's fruitful. Mm-hmm. You know, the two of us, you know, back at Doomben, trying to, you know, squint to see the screen, you know, our stomping ground. things are right in the world. There's a bit of a chill in the air. Shit, Adelaide's nearly finished. Geez, didn't Terry McAuliffe of Racing.com fame, of Get On SA fame, come out and have a few firm words around the state of the SA Carnival? So
I'll fill in for those that didn't see it. What did he say?
So Terry McAuliffe's been a part of SA racing for like 30, 40 years, right? So if anyone can have an opinion, it's him. And he basically he was just like, we're suffering in this time slot because of, he's like, I think a number of reasons. I think AFL's one because they obviously usually have either Port or the Crows playing at home on a Saturday. He said the prize money, the scheduling, and it's drawn out for too long. So he said a few things. And then he said, what we should do is have 2 weeks. Have 1 week where we have the Sangster and the Oaks for the girls, and the next week where we have the Derby and the Goodwood. And if the girls want to have a quick week back up, then they can give everyone an opportunity. So the carnival's over and done with in 2 weeks. He said we need to ride the wave as well of this sort of spring carnival or the autumn carnival, and basically not try to compete with AFL. So, he's like, I'm not exactly sure when the dates are. I don't have the answer. I was like, you know what? Did Terry McAuliffe listen to the On the Drift podcast, and did he hear our opinions on SA racing, and yours more specifically around the scheduling and trying to cram it into 2 weeks? And we made the point on our podcast of we were the first to have this take. So if anyone wanted to give us a fucking, a shout out would be useful. Again, like, could you at least warn me before you bend me over and fucking take advantage of me? Terry. But no, fair enough. It is. I was listening to it. I was sweating profusely. I was just like, I agree with you so much, Terry. You're making me sweat.
Yeah. When someone has, over 3 decades of flesh in the game, I think people should stand up and listen, especially if there's someone like him. He obviously gives a shit, right? At the end of the day, we couldn't really give a fuck. Like,
yeah, true.
Like, what happens down there, it's like, it's getting to the point where it is so irrelevant. I would love for it to be a nice little carnival, 2 weeks, hit bang, you see some epic racing there.
Yeah.
But instead, you just see a flash in the pan, Russian Camelot style horse. Sometimes once every 5 years go over there and win one of their stinky Group 1s.
Yeah.
It's like, it has gotten to the stage of irrelevancy, and we've been saying it for 1, if not 2 years. So
we've been saying it for 2 years. My thing is as well is perfect example. There was never an iota of a possibility that Giga Kick, arguably the best horse in Australia, was going to go to the Goodwood. Like that was never even discussed. He was always going to go to the Doomben 10,000, or he was going to spell. You look at the prize money, obviously it's a no-brainer, but that's just goes to show.
Yeah,
he's a Victorian horse. The logical thing is to send him, just across to Adelaide, closer to home. It's like, no, why the hell would I send this thing to the Goodwood when the Doomben 10,000 is worth triple the prize money and it's just better?
Yeah, especially like a horse of his like profile and like run on style. Doomben doesn't really suit him.
No, it doesn't.
Like, you know what? We're still going to go there because the quality is going to be better and the money is much more attractive. So Brisbane speaks for itself. It has a massive part to play in
100%.
The racing calendar. You look at the Stradbroke from last year, form race of the year.
100%. And it was a good form race the year before, and it always will be.
Yeah.
And the JJ produces 2-year-olds that generally go on with it as 3-year-olds. The Doomben 10,000 is a great race. Yeah, like you could argue probably our Derby's a bit weak, but most of them are.
The reason for that is because our Derby winners, basically the top 3, get sold to Hong Kong straight away.
They do, yeah.
So it's actually good for the connections in Australia. They target the Queensland Derbies and the Oaks because they know, not the Oaks, but the Derby more specifically, because they know their horse is more likely going to be sold to international connections.
Brilliant.
I think we've nailed it.
Get us on.
Yeah.
Get us on. We'll share our opinion.
And
we're not afraid of anyone.
Brisbane racing isn't 100% like bulletproof either. We're not saying that. because there's too many sprints in the Brisbane racing calendar. Like the Kingsford Smith into the Doomben 10,000 into the Stradbroke.
Tats Tiara.
Like there's a lot of them. Like I think it's a bit of overkill, but at least it's still relevant.
100%.
All right, rant over. Drifters, we'll see you Sunday.
See you, Drifters.
Goodbye.